Hi. Well, welcome to the Plant Care 101, if you will, for some of the plants that are generally going to be host plants for butterflies. And so we want to really leave a lot of that plant there because the female butterflies, and there might be 3 or 4 different species that will lay their eggs on different plants. So for an example, I know plants normally kind of start dying off on the top, and that would be okay to trim them back. You never want to cut them off at the base because you're eliminating this entire stalk area and other branches that would be very necessary for that female to find a place to lay her eggs. And then when the eggs hatch, that little caterpillar will start feeding on that plant. So just looking, these plants look pretty healthy. Now, here's a good example. They generally die off at the top. You can see that woody stem. That is not green anymore, and therefore it's okay to cut off. Now, I don't have anything good to cut off with, so it's always better not to leave it shaggy like that. But, you know, with your trimmers, go ahead and cut that nicely. Like, I can tell where this one was cut back. And it's pretty deadish, so it could be cut back anymore. So the rule is green, leave it alone. If it's brown, it's probably dead, and you could probably trim that back. Here's one that is a dead stem coming up from this particular plant, and you can go all the way back down, and it looks pretty dried out and woody. So you could always test it by breaking it off like that. Yep, it's dead, dead, dead. And what I would suggest is cutting it all the way back down. So sometimes you'll have a split like that, and whoever did this one correctly because it was probably a dead stem here, but this live green is picked up and it's carrying the load now of growth. So that was a good cut there, and they left this one there. I've seen it happen where, oh, that one's dead, cut it down here. No, you don't want to do that. You want to leave as much green as possible, never cut that. Now, sometimes they'll throw you off because some of the branches kind of get brown in the sun and stuff like that. The key is to look at the top of the plant and also at the bottom. There should be some green leaves and then some green growth. And if there's green anywhere in between, don't cut that branch off. We'll just leave it alone. It will do fine. Another example of where you've got a dead stem and you've got green stem, but this green stem doesn't look real healthy either. But I would still give it the chance. See, it's got little green leaves, so it's probably okay. I would cut this back, you know, here, and give it a chance to grow. If you have a vine like this that is laying down, it's probably okay and healthy, except a lot of times people will step on it. What I try to do is I will try to get that to stand up just a little bit so it's obvious that it's green and it's living. So, doesn't that look better? Mm-hmm. So we're going to move on to a plant that grows as a really strong vine and is a fast grower, but it's really important for the Gulf fritillary butterfly. This would be their host plant. This is what the female would be laying eggs on. So I see some normal dying off of leaves, and that would be okay to trim off, to get rid of. But again, if it's green, leave it alone. And you'll see that the passion vine has its own network of being able to grab and everything like that. But to help it along as it grows, if you want to make it look neater, you can always we can actually disconnect that one, but just go ahead and put it up there to where it can actually grab on, and that's probably good enough. You never want to bend it, and you never want to fasten it too tightly with anything, but just kind of gently lay a piece up there like this one. Try to get a little bit higher and set it back there. Okay, now it'll grab. See, it'll start grabbing with its own little branches, and it'll hold itself up there and continue to grow. So I sort of would do this to all of mine just to make sure that, you know, they're going to have that that opportunity to grow and get long. The key is when you are trying to manipulate these little vines, they should be pretty flexible, so it shouldn't hurt them to bend a little bit, but be careful. Now, this one, is that live or dead? Duh, it's kind of a no-brainer, but it is so dried out and white or yellowish, that's obviously dead. Mm-hmm. So if, again, the thing is, if it's green, leave it up. Help it along. Be careful as you bend it. I would never bend it more than not even 60 degrees. If you bend it more than that, you have a chance to actually harming the little vine. You want to keep it in track and going up. And sometimes they will fill up an area so much that you don't have really any space. But these plants right here, they look good. They're healthy. There's some dead leaves and stuff, but I think this, would be okay to take off. But I would also look for any big hanging ones, and you could actually start shooting them back down if they're really long. Oh, we have a Hummer. Hi, Hummer. She's saying, "What are you doing to my plants?" These are not her plants. She doesn't care about these. So as long as you're gentle, you can, in their space, you could actually work even really tall ones like that back down into the iron mesh.
Into the grid system, yeah, and I can see this one coming out,
This
looking right up at me.
This would be a good one to tuck up. But now, this would be even a harder one. As you can see, this is a little bit thicker, and it might break a little bit easier. But, you can always use its fellow vines to kind of navigate around and see if that doesn't hold. And then we're going to take the side and just lay that one in there, and she'll be able to grab that one too. Dead leaves, dead branches, always a good idea to kind of clean them off to give the new growth more room, so they're not so crowded. With the new shoots, they can find a good place to go. So we're at the Viatex tree right now. This is an awesome tree. It looks like it's in really good shape and health. Obviously, you've got some blooms on this, which is good. Now, all flowers generally are helpful. It doesn't really matter what plant it might be coming from, even a tree. And the benefit for butterflies is that this is their food source. We talk about the plants and everything else. That's the caterpillar's food source. But you need flowers. Even the lantana over there growing, that's such a wonderful bed. All the colors, very nice for us. But for butterflies, they can nectar on that and get a lot of food and grow and be nice, big, healthy butterflies. So back to the Viatex here. This plant, this tree seems to be doing very well. And again, you've got the flowers, but you've got a lot of seeds in here too, which are nice. I would leave these or harvest them because they're going to bloom into more flowers, but also seeds will happen for growth of more plants, if in fact you want to do that. So I'm real hesitant to cut anything back that's green. Mm-hmm. Bottom line.
If it were to be brown and ready to be trimmed, can you show us the place that you would trim,
right,
and how to not leave a nub like that little thumb?
Well, I would be careful anytime you've got leaves attached that are nice, healthy leaves. Spare those. And if you really wanted to be more selective, and let's say you just want to trim that one off and that one off and that one off right there, and kind of leave some stem. I'd much rather see, a plant left alone, but I realize that you do have to trim them at times. So I would just go as little as possible on trees, because there's a reason, those seeds and the flowers and everything else are going to grow, and we want to spare them.
So only if it's looking brown and starting, then
right,
you would take it at the...
Again, the rule is if it's green, leave it alone.
Wonderful.
And just one added thought, looks like everything is watered very well, but I'm always concerned if there's too much water. There's a lot of plants here in Arizona that really don't need very much water, and overwatering could lead more to them dying off than water. So too much water is just as bad as no water at all. Okay, it's unfortunate that we have a loss of this plant. Now, it might come back, but guess what the problem was? Here's your hint. Standing water is never good for most plants unless they're a pond plant and they're supposed to be in the water. This plant obviously is not. Now, this is, if you want to show that plant over there, how healthy that looks, and then it's not being overwatered.
There we go there.
Unfortunately, this pot probably doesn't have a drain in the bottom.
Don't make it too pretty.
So if it's getting overwatered, there has no way to drain. Watch how much water is being released into a plant. And if you see standing water in a plant, it's never going to be a good thing for that plant. So it's still savable. As you can see, there's still quite a bit of green in here. If we could just get the water off and out right now, it very well might come back. And it's probably so heavy, there's no way to tip it and drain it. So we'll have to have the guys do that. So, but you know, it's all turning brown. It's all dying. So should we go on? The scientific name is Asclepias subulata, and it is called the, it is a milkweed plant, but it's called the desert milkweed. Now, it's native to Mexico and maybe even southern Arizona. I'm not real sure about that, but it does grow very well here because it needs very little water and tends to be a great plant for butterflies. Now, monarch butterflies have how many species of plants? I think they feed on about 73 different types of milkweed. There are that many species of milkweed. Now, they really favor about 30 of the 73. And this is one of the #1 milkweed plants that they like, especially here in Arizona. This one seems to be, I don't know, healthy enough. It looks like it is being trimmed back quite a bit, but it looks like it's also being trimmed back in dead spots, which maybe isn't too bad. But let's go in and look at some others. A good example where it's actually dying off. You know, you've got 2 stems there that are all dead, so it needs to be cut back into just the tip of the green, so it'll come back. But it looks like whoever is taking care of these are doing a pretty good job cutting them back. This whole stem probably could be taken out. It's no longer green, and I'm not sure if even, well, this is the stem that it's growing off of is okay, because look at this. This is nice and green. So I would cut it above that significantly, right about there, and take off the dead.
Okay.
Just don't cut it. But this is also really normal for this particular plant. I have a lot of these in my yard, and actually I yesterday pulled about a dozen. Let's see, where is it? Just like this.
Oh yeah. So you said, if in doubt, just leave it be if you're worried about it.
Right.
Okay.
But if you touch it and it breaks off, guess what?
It's dead.
It's definitely dead. That's an easy test right there. A good sign. Even though whoever came through and cut back a lot, it's this plant is going to come back okay. You can see it is growing. It's got little buds right there that tend to be doing pretty well.
It's right on the tips there. I can get it.
Right. So it's regrowing, and it will come back.
There we go. The little white tips.
And of course, you recognize the lantana. Comes in a lot of different colors, and it's a wonderful plant to have. Not only because it's beautiful for us, but you know, all flowering plants provide a nectar in the flowering that the butterflies can drink and that's what their food comes from. So that's why it's pretty important. Yes, you have host plants to lay their eggs on, but you've got to have the flowering plants that have nectar where they can actually drink that nectar and get their food.
Okay.
Now, this has been well cared for. You know, maybe a little trimming here and there is okay, but generally you do not want to cut lantana back too much, because then you'll ruin the chance for it to have blooms, and that flower again is the food source for a lot of butterflies. Another area that has really got some excellent growing vines that, again, these are important plants for different butterflies. They're going to lay their eggs on this, and so when the caterpillars come out, they will actually cut down quite a bit of the vegetation. So if you're concerned ever about, you know, branches growing real high, guess what? That's where those caterpillars are going to pick first, because that's the new tender growth, and they're going to chew that down. So I would never concern about cutting that down for a cosmetic reason. Number one, they're actually hanging on there pretty well. They have the ability, these little tendrils, they're very strong, and they can wrap around even the smallest little niche in concrete or any kind of you know, surface like that, where they can actually pull themselves up and hang on. So I would never cut them. Let the butterflies lay their eggs on them, and let the eggs come into caterpillars, and let the caterpillars eat that nice healthy plant for them, and they'll do the work for you.
So cutting and twining, so those are looking great. Okay.
Right. Yeah,
Perfect.
I wouldn't take it down at all.
Let it be.